What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Super Fantasy Bros show, which is part of the Triple Play Fantasy Network. If you are listening to this on the podcast, this will be our last episode on the podcast. Me and Jacob are actually switching over to YouTube, where we have our, over 1,000 subscribers. Everything's there, and it's going to be a YouTube-only show now, and we're going to be going that direction. So if you're on the podcast and you haven't, for some reason out there, have not joined YouTube, please go to Triple Play YouTube channel. Tons of great content for all different sports on there. Hit that subscribe button so you can find us there. But Jacob, how are you feeling? How is the fantasy playoffs, which have been disgusting this week? Injuries, COVID, everything's there. I tweeted out I had one of the worst outputs of a team, and I won with 100 points this week. How are you feeling?
All I got to say is that my big money league had Tom Brady and Najee Harris and Amari Cooper. So I'm hurting in that one. But I lucked out in some other ones because some other teams were riddled with all those crazy, terrible outputs. So I'll take it for sure. But my gosh, man, Brady, Najee, Cooper. I mean, list goes on and on, man. It was an awful week.
Jamar Chase killed me.
Yep.
All these different injuries, Swift being out. It's just been a tough. So if you've made it past this far, if you made it in there, it's a grind this year. We say it every year, but this year has been incredibly difficult with the extra game, with the different times, how injured people are. It's definitely been there. Now, on today's show, we're going to be doing a little bit of a different kind of show. We're going to keep it a little quicker for everybody out there. We're going to be looking at everything you need for Week 16. So we want to get you ahead of the game for waiver wire ads. We know there's 2 games on tonight if you're watching this on Tuesday, so you can have that. We're going to look at streamers that Jacob does very well. We're going to give you some tied-in streamers, which can be a little bit difficult to kind of judge right now. DFS locks as well. So we're going to give you some little DFS love out there, and we're going to go over our favorite prop bets for tonight's game. So be sure to get that out there as soon as you can, because of COVID and other stuff. DK doesn't have a lot of prop bets going forward this weekend, but it's good to kind of get ahead of these things. So let's roll. But before we do that, I do want to tell everybody, make sure you hit up our Fantasy Points. Fantasy Points is a great sponsor for us right now. We have a college football bull guide right now that's only $25 that I'm contributing on. That's really great. They just opened up their new special for next year, 2022 early bird special. Please use that. 21 triple play 10 is our promo code. So we really appreciate if you could get on there because they're a great partner. All right, let's go. Here we go. All right, who are your waiver wire ads, Jacob? Who are we grabbing here?
All right, guys, we are grabbing Duke Johnson. All right, the 28-year-old came out of nowhere to dominate last Sunday. Now, a case can be made that Duke only got Sunday's huge workload because Myles Gaskin and Salvin Ahmed were recovering from COVID-19. But after last Sunday's win over the Jets, Brian Flores said that Duke Johnson, quote, definitely gave us a spark, ran it well, ran hard, picked up first downs, picked up tough yardage when they knew we were going to run it. All right, so it sounds like the making of a player who is going to see the majority of touches moving forward. So add Duke Johnson if you're in need of a safe floor flex option this week.
Everybody makes the Duke Johnson jokes out there,
That's right.
And he's here. Like he's back. He's ready to go. And I think he's a good ad because Gaskin has not shown that he can be that guy. They're going for a playoff spot. I mean, he's going to get the volume, I think, right? And right. I think he's a must add in this. I would say he's probably, besides the guy I'm going to talk about here in a second, is the guy that I would be going after. The guy that I'm back. He's back, baby. Rojo. Let's talk about Ronald Jones. Week 15, 8 attempts, 63 yards. We know he didn't have a great outputting there, 9.1 fantasy points. The negative game script, it was a weird game. You're looking at just kind of what Brady was doing. They lost Godwin. They lost Mike Evans. But the key factor in Ronald Jones is they lost our boy Lenny. Lenny Fournette looks like he's going to be out. And I love Ronald Jones's talent. I've always been a Rojo guy. So this is coming from a place of love for me, Rojo. I think he's a solid ad, especially with those receivers missing. Now, Evans is week to week. They're getting Antonio Brown back. Mm-hmm. But I think you grab Ronald Jones. He's out there. Everybody, especially in redraft, he is out there. So I think you can safely plug and play him next week.
Absolutely. Rojo took over for Fournette in the second half of Sunday's game and rushed for 63 yards while securing both of his targets for 8 yards. So he's going to get work. So I like that ad a lot. I would actually add him way before Duke Johnson in a much better Bucks offense.
Yeah, I mean, and they're going to use him, and I think they can
Yep.
use him in the receiving game too, especially with those injuries. We obviously saw some other guys jump in there. Vaughn's in there and those other things, but I think Ronald can get I think he's going to get the volume. Volume is king, and so
Yeah,
semifinals, if you need a running back volume, I started Craig Reynolds in the league because I needed volume, and I got the volume. He didn't
that's
score,
right.
but I got the volume. So volume is king for me. I think Ronald is there. Who's your next guy?
All right, let's go with Russell Gage. All right, Gage
He's
had
back.
8 catches on 11 targets for 91 yards and a score in last Sunday's loss to the 49ers. I watched that game. All right. And Gage mossed that 49ers cornerback to get that touchdown. All right. The 25-year-old is averaging 7.3 catches for 86.8 yards with 2 total scores over the last 4 weeks. He has firmly established himself as Atlanta's top receiving option after Calvin Ridley's midseason departure. And he takes on a lowly Detroit Lions defense in Week 16. So definitely give him a look if you need a viable flex option with wide receiver 2 upside.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, Russell is interesting because he kind of started off slow. Everybody was there.
Right.
Everybody thought he was going to jump up with Ridley, but he is clearly they're targeting him and they're looking for him in those areas. Pitts is not getting targeted. I made a joke on why the hell are you targeting Lee Smith in the red zone, and they targeted Lee Smith in the
Right.
red zone. And so realistically, I don't hate it, especially with if you need it at the receiver position. Waddle going down, these other guys going down, especially if you're looking for that late ad. Russell is a good option. Now,
Definitely.
my next guy is I don't want to say it's injury dependent, but it's Justin Jackson from the Chargers.
Yeah.
And the thing about him, he had 13 attempts, 86 yards. He had 1 reception, 13 yards. He did put up 10 fantasy points. But to me, this is I don't know if anybody heard the news. I'm sure you have. Eckler is on COVID list.
Yep.
He could come back, but I don't know about you. If you have Eckler, you better have Justin Jackson at some
Right.
point out there. Like that's got to be a must add there. But also, you never know. I mean, Eckler might not come off. We've seen some guys in the Browns. They should have been off and they didn't test out of the COVID protocol. It's really one of those things where do you really want to guess? And to me, this is one of those things is you grab him. And then I also like grabbing Justin Jackson. Let's say you're playing Eckler and you have the more fab. Go grab Justin Jackson and just stash him. It's worth it because you can try to block your opponent. That's kind of the other area too. Like, navigate your leagues. I don't hate the ad. I think that it's a solid ad, especially if Eckler misses. Obviously, he'll get the volume there, but he did get 13 attempts last game that we saw. So I like him in a lot of different plays. And this is a guy down the stretch. If Eckler's still out, you could grab him. But I like him for depth purposes. But especially if you have Eckler or if you're playing Eckler, I think you go block or you add.
Yes, and if Eckler misses time, then we know that Justin Jackson is going to get that work. All right. Like you said, he had 13 carries last week for 86 yards and also had a catch for 13 yards. He almost got 100 yards in a part-time, halftime role. So he would definitely vault up to RB2 if Eckler misses.
Yeah. So that's our waiver wire ads. It's crazy we're talking about these names. It makes me it's gross. But Duke Johnson, Russell Gage, Justin Jackson, Ronald Jones. So free my boy Rojo. Rojo, have a good game these last couple of games, so you get a shot next year. All right, let's jump over to QB streamers. This is Jacob's special area. He is the smartest man in fantasy when it comes to QB streamers, and for some reason, this guy always picks against the Cowboys. I don't know if he's doing that this week, but who are your early streamers this week?
Not this week, because I do not trust Taylor Heineke against your Cowboys, Kevin. But I appreciate the kind words. And first up, we are going with Taysom Hill versus the Miami Dolphins. All right, Hill is coming off a lowly fantasy performance where he only completed 13 passes for 154 yards while rushing 11 times for 33 yards with no touchdowns or turnovers. All right, before last week, Hill was averaging 25.5 fantasy points per game over his first 2 starts of the season. In those 2 starts, Hill totaled 174 rushing yards with 2 rushing touchdowns while throwing decently, averaging 220 passing yards with 2 passing touchdowns. All right, you're not streaming Hill for his passing potential, but for his rushing ceiling floor. He has an easier matchup at home this week against the Miami Dolphins. All right, so Taysom Hill has a low-end quarterback 1 floor with top 3 quarterback upside. So don't shy away from him this week just because of a dud last week. All right. And my second,
go ahead. He is so ugly throwing the ball. Like
so
they can't bring him back next year, right? This isn't like a thing anymore.
No, man, Saints got to move on. That's just an experiment that needs to go out the window. It's ridiculous.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You know, the new Sean Payton, get it over with. This is why you're getting a movie made out of you on Netflix, but with Kevin, what's his name? I cannot remember his
Kevin
name.
James. Yeah.
Kevin James is your head coaching actor. That's because you started Taysom Hill.
Goofball. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so my second streaming option here is Justin Fields at the Seattle Seahawks. All right, Fields is averaging 18.6 fantasy points over his last 2 starts since coming back from injury. All right, and during that span, Fields has rushed for 109 yards on 16 carries while averaging 255 yards and 1.5 passing touchdowns through the air. All right, with offensive coordinator Bill Lazor out last Monday night, Fields was subject to Matt Nagy's offensive play calling, but still managed to score 17 fantasy points. All right, Fields has proven to be a safe streaming option given his rushing floor and has a favorable matchup against Seattle where he should have to run to keep the chains moving. All right, so fire up Fields as a mid-range quarterback 2 with upside.
And Fields has been very, very good the last few weeks. Like when you're looking at him, yeah. I mean, did you even notice Allen Robinson was a do not play last night?
Nope.
That's how far our boy Allen Robinson
play all season.
Yeah, but it's just crazy to me how like he's just not out there. And when you look at it, according to PFF passing grades right now, he's third highest in the week. That's what Justin Fields is at. So he is efficient, playing well, and I think in streaming purposes, and I've been starting him in some leagues as well. Yeah. That's just kind of how that works. I like that. I like that with Fields, especially against Seattle. That's a juicy matchup.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I can see him scoring a rushing touchdown. I can see that, especially in this game. Like get that upside. You love those rushing touchdown Konami quarterbacks,
right, my man.
All right, let's
manifest Fields rushing touchdown.
Let's manifest it. I needed to manifest a 30-point game last night. That did not work for me. But we're going to go to a couple other things. And the next segment we're going to talk about because I think it is very relevant because tight end streamers are very hard to deal with. Like, hey, where are we going with our tight end streamers? So let's take a look at some tight end streamers. And, you know, when I looked at this, I don't know about you, Jacob. I'm looking at a guy that can score. So I want a guy like, hey, can he score a touchdown this week? Where is that touchdown going to come from? And can he kind of give us any type of production there? I'm interested in yours. I want you to go first here. Who is your guy?
All right, guys. This is a deep league guy. All right, and his name is Albert Okwuegbunam. Yeah, I've been practicing that a little bit, guys, just for you. But over the past 3 weeks, Albert is averaging 3.7 catches on 4.3 targets for 40 yards while scoring once during that span. All right. Those stats don't necessarily pop out, but Albert O's best friend, Drew Lock, is the favorite to start this week with Teddy Bridgewater recovering from a concussion he sustained in Week 15. Albert and Drew Lock's relationship goes back to their college days at Mizzou, where they connected for 17 touchdowns during their 2 seasons together. All right, their chemistry is apparent when they're both on the field, and I expect Albert O to get 7+ targets against a Las Vegas Raiders defense giving up the second most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. All right, now Albert O is obviously a risk streaming with Noah Fant still healthy, but I think Drew gets both tight ends involved early and often against a weak Raiders defense. All right, so if you're desperate at tight end and need a ceiling play, take a shot on Albert Okwuegbunam.
I like it. I like that you know how to pronounce his name too. That's a tough name to. I always just call him Albert O. I love Albert O. I always thought if he got drafted by somebody else, he'd have a much higher ceiling that we're talking about right now, especially dynasty purposes. But Fant was there. It was a weird kind of, I don't know, your Broncos. The
Broncos actually called Drew Lock on draft night and said, hey, do you want Albert O on this team? We will draft him here. And he said yes. And that's the only reason why, because Drew Lock okayed it.
Yeah. Well, Drew Lock. Well, hey, Drew Lock's back. That's what we're going to talk about in a little bit.
That's
but
right.
Yeah, Drew. Yeah, they ask him who he wanted, and then they don't start him. All right, let's go to the next guy here. My guy CJ Uzomah, and I like him. You know, last week he had 3 catches, 4 targets, 18 yards. Obviously, nothing to really like. Wow, that's amazing. But we're talking about tight end streamers here, guys. But there's a couple things that I like about him. He's gotten 16 targets the last 3 games. So that's legitimate. He had 6 against the Chargers, 6 against San Francisco. He had 4 against Denver. He's looked pretty solid in games where he's had those targets that you've seen. He had 56 yards against San Francisco. And in PPR formats, I like that because you're looking at a baseline of maybe 4 catches. So you're looking at it there. The reason why I think he can score is because right now he's playing the Ravens. The Ravens are beat up all over the place in that defense. They've had a lot of injuries. Based on the tight ends this year, they've given up at least 10 fantasy points not 10. It looks like they've given up at least 10 fantasy points in 12 games, at least the baseline in 12 games this year to tight ends. So you're looking at, can CJ give you like a 10-point game? I think he can in PPR formats, but he can also get a touchdown. They've given up 8 touchdowns to the tight end position. And 2 against the Bengals, and that's when he had his big game. So when you're looking at exactly like, hey, he's playing the team that he scored on. He also scored on twice. We're going to see those targets. They've given up a lot of fantasy points in there. You're looking at around 10 for the tight end position. I think CJ is a good play this week. Obviously, with everybody around them, they play slow, all that stuff. But you're looking for a touchdown. If he can give you like a 440 and a touchdown, I think that's a solid streamer.
Yeah. I mean, I go back to his week 7 performance against the Ravens, like you said, where he posted 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he had his best game of the season then, and he faces them again at home. So, you want that touchdown. You want that touchdown upside, but he also got 6 targets last week. So he is a safe floor option, but also has some upside. So I like that streaming option a lot, Kevin.
Yeah, and he's had 16 targets last 3 games. That's nothing to sneeze at the tight end position. Like, that's a legitimate option there. And then who else are you going to start? Evan Ingram? Who are you going to get these guys at? All right, we're going to go to DFS Lock, and we're going to kind of a new segment for you guys here, talk about some guys that we're definitely playing this week. Obviously, I think we both went for guys that they cost a little less and that we think have some upside, that low ownership. Well, my guy is. I don't think Jacob's guy going to be. I think he's going to get kind of locked in there. But let's go. So we're going to look at DFS Lock. And we don't always talk about DFS, but this is definitely something we're going to add to the show, especially for next season, because I know a lot of you guys play it. I'm going to go first on mine. And you know what? I'm going Courtland Sutton. And, he's been absolutely terrible. So I want to preface this by saying he's been bad this season. He's been awful.
Yeah.
He's $4,200 right now on DraftKings. That is a great number, especially because I don't think a lot of people are going to – this is one of those plays where I have some fun, and I'm looking at, okay, who can I get here that I think can have some upside based on his points, and I can get some guys around him on DFS. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to me, it's Sutton. And when you look at him, he's got Drew Lock back. Drew Lock and Sutton, we know more than likely Lock's going to start. They've looked great together in the past. Even in the first couple of weeks, we saw – with even Teddy there, Sutton did well. He's had 3 games that are over 20 fantasy points. He hasn't looked great, but I think the key number for me is he had 7 targets last week. Lock is gone, Bridgewater's gone. Lock is in. I think he'll look for Sutton a lot. And to me, in my opinion, I think that he's going to outperform his $4,200 that he's worth on there. I mean, if you're looking at the guys around him at $4,200, I think Sutton's the safest play if that's how you want to build your team.
And look, Sutton has had an awful year. But it's because Teddy doesn't take chances, all right? He doesn't have the arm to do that. Lock takes chances, all right? Much to his detriment some of the time, but he takes chances. Like, he will throw it down the field, and Sutton is a deep threat, all right? So Lock should look his way a few times deep downfield. And at 4,200, I mean, those are the type of plays, that type of upside that can win you a DFS week. So that's super cheap. I like that.
If he has a big game and you're like, hey, 4,200 and I can pull in my lineups and build some people around him, I honestly think Sutton's a very good play this week. And I'm playing it, so don't think I won't. I'm putting Sutton in my lineup. I'll tweet it out, and then we're going to see how it works. But I do think with Lock there, I think with the targets, and he's going to get a bomb. He always gets a bomb, and if he can catch that bomb with Lock there, I love it. I think that's a great play.
Absolutely.
All right, who do you got?
All right, I got Antonio Brown. All right, Antonio Brown.
Vaccine card, Antonio Brown. All right, he's back.
Fake vaccine card and everything, man. He is back somehow. He just finds his way back into the league. But, hey, man, Antonio Brown is officially back from suspension and has rejoined the Buccaneers. He returns at the perfect time with Chris Godwin out for the rest of the regular season with an ACL and Mike Evans questionable with a hamstring injury. All right, so if Antonio Brown proves healthy enough to play this week, because we know that he had missed the prior 5 weeks before his suspension with an ankle injury. So it's not a slam dunk that he returns, but it looks good. and Antonio Brown tweeted out, "Put some respect on my name." So it sounds like he is doing everything he possibly can to play, and he could be the wide receiver 1 there this week. All right, so if he proves healthy enough to play, Brown could step right into 10 plus targets. All right,
Yeah.
the 33-year-old is priced at 4,900, which would be an absolute steal as Brady's potential number 1 wide receiver target.
Yeah, he's a smash. I think he's going to be in
Yeah,
a lot of people's lineups
he
because
will.
I love it. He's going to get
Yeah.
it. I mean, when you look at what he did, you know what? He's only played 5 games this year and he has 42 targets.
Monster.
That's I mean, you're looking at it, the last few games that he played.
Right.
So I put up week 6 stats for everybody to see what he did, and
Yeah.
that was with everybody out there. He has, he had 7 catches in week 4, 7 in week 5, 9 in week 6. So he's going to come back in, and if you have him on some teams, especially even in redrafts in those places, you're loving it because I'm plugging him in a team that had a bye, and I'm excited because I think he's going to get targeted the hell out of it. We know where Brady's there, so I like that play there.
100%.
All right. Well, last part of the show is we're going to talk about some prop bets. Now, these are time sensitive because of the prop bet situation. So we're going to go with the Eagles game tonight. It's the only one that had prop bets for us on DraftKings. So you can go get these right now. So go right now, stop what you're doing, and get these prop bets. And so let's talk about our favorite prop bets tonight. So why don't you give us ours? Where you got your college fund for your children, Jacob? What are you putting it on tonight?
That's right, my man. I got my college fund. I'm putting it on Miles Sanders over 55.5 rushing yards. All right, before the bye week, Sanders was averaging 93 rushing yards per game over his last 3 games. All right, the Eagles have made it a point to establish the run game, which has greatly benefited Miles. Now, Washington has been stingy against the run this season, but Sanders should get enough carries to reach 56 plus rushing yards tonight in what should be a positive game script at home in Philly.
I like it. I think it is going to be a positive game script. At a certain point, Miles Sanders got it. I think the only thing holding this prop back would be the coaching staff, right? So because he's got to get the volume. You would expect him to probably get the volume. You want him to get the volume. We've all wanted him to get the volume. But I think that when you're looking at what he's been able to do, I think with Washington, I think that he's going to be there with a healthy Hurts. I think it helps him there.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with the Eagles as well in this game. And because there's so many unknowns with Washington with the COVID and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to go out on my limb here in this. I almost took the over on the rushing yards for Hurts, but he has a hurt ankle.
Right.
I don't necessarily know where that's going to be, and I'm a little worried about that, one hit to it. So I'm going to get a guy that I think is going to be playing the whole game as long as everything goes well, and that's Devonta Smith. And I'm going to go over 47.5 receiving yards. Obviously, he has not looked amazing in the last few weeks. We've seen him against the Giants only get 4 targets. The Jets only gets 4 targets. But I think he has the ability to get 47.5 receiving yards on 2 catches tonight. I think they're going to look his way. I think they're going to get him involved, especially with Hurts. Look for some screens, look for some ways to get Devonta involved. So I'm going to see the targets go up. If targets go up, receiving yards are going to go up as well. So I think Devonta's going to have a good game tonight. I expect him to get over that 47.5 receiving yards. I'm pretty confident about this one.
That's a fantastic play because Washington is giving up the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers. So you know that Devonta Smith is going to be open, all right? And Jalen Hurts being back definitely helps. So that to me is a smash play as well, Kevin.
All right. Well, hey, we got all of your everything you wanted from us today. You got it. We appreciate you going to the YouTube channel if you're listening to this on the podcast. If not, you're on the YouTube channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. Tonight's a big game. Follow through. Get those waiver wire ads in there. Semifinals next week. I can't believe it's already the end of December, and we're excited. Jacob, you got anything before we get out of here?
I just want to say when you cash in our DFS and when you cash in our prop bet locks, all right, we just want to say happy early Merry Christmas to you guys, all right? Cash in and let's get after it, all right?
Cash in, and remember, our tips are open on our Twitter pages, so come find us, give us a little tip. All right, we'll see you guys later. You guys have a happy holidays. We'll be back next Tuesday. Until next time, see you later.